Good evening, everybody. This purpose of this video is a special announcement for people who are using thinkorswim analytics to manage their M3 and bearish butterfly trades. As well as even if you do income trades, it's something you should probably be aware of. But particularly people who've purchased the M3 and bearish butterfly courses, or who are just trying to trade them on their own. And also, I am going to be doing a position update. One of the things that I did, or I forgot to do, I should say, is yesterday, as in on Tuesday, I made several position changes, and I put them, the alerts in the Options Tribe virtual trading floor. I made sure they were in there 15 minutes after, but I completely forgot to do the trade update on the website. Partially because I've been so busy. It's last week in August. We're trying to get a lot of all the vacation stuff in before the kids start school again. But anyway, we have some interesting things going on, or some things you really need to know about, particularly if you're using thinkorswim analytics. When we did the courses and we set the delta guidelines, and all we talk about with the trades, we did it with a program called Option View. And using those numbers, everything is fine. The issue we've been having is, well, for a long time we've been having a difference in delta between Option View and thinkorswim. And a while back it was about -3 per butterfly. So in other words, if you put on a M3 position with 3 butterflies, you would have approximately -9 more delta in Option View than you would in thinkorswim. The position, you say, well, what's right? Is Option View right, or is thinkorswim right? Well, I can tell you by watching profit and losses in the position profit and loss acts more like Option View is correct and thinkorswim is off. And I was aware of that, but -3, it is somewhat significant because we're looking at, in general, if you're looking at an M3 trade, for example, we're looking at a maximum delta that we would like to have in that trade for the most part is -10 per butterfly. When we consider that thinkorswim delta is about 3 delta difference, then that means on thinkorswim we should be running maybe -7 delta per butterfly. And I've been kind of trading it, just assuming that was the difference. And if you remember, we had a little bit of trouble in July. We had a profitable month, but it was like half a profit target. And in August, if you remember, well, first of all, if we go back all the way back to July, no, I'm sorry. In August, if you remember, we put the position on, and we were relatively flat delta, and we had on thinkorswim, and we had a large up move right the next day of the trade, which typically isn't a problem for the M3. And the butterflies lost more than we thought they would, and I kind of contributed that to the fact that usually butterflies are worth a little more when the market's stopped. And when the market really starts moving again, you get a deflation in the butterfly prices. I actually planned for that in August because I knew that would happen under those circumstances. And what happened when we actually got that large move is I got down like $100 per butterfly, which was very unusual because I actually, on thinkorswim standpoints, I actually overhedged that position. I really shouldn't have lost anything. And then later in the trade, we kind of had the same thing happen to us again. I have fairly normal delta within parameters for an M3 trade, and we were up probably, I'd say, 2/3 of profit target. And then, boom, the market takes off to the upside. Again, shouldn't have been a problem for the trade. But what ended up happening is the trade ended up, just as the market ground up, it ended up, every day the market went up, we lost more money than I thought we should have lost. I said, boy, the market's got to be, the thinkorswim lines have to be off. But I didn't really think a whole lot more of it, other than boy, these, their projections are just, they must not be right, and it's probably because of low volatility in the grinding market, because that tends to happen a little bit in a low volatility grinding market. And then I put on our September trade, and I hedged that one pretty heavy as well. I mean, I had one call for 5 butterflies. If you've been trading this, yes, we have low volatility. So sometimes we need to do that, and we have double the number of calls. And my T+0 line on my Thinkorswim was very flat, almost positive delta. And I figured, my real per butterfly was probably around -2, -3. And the market takes off, and I lose more than I think I'm going to lose again. So I had about enough of that, and I started looking back at the option view positions again and retraded stuff to see what was going on. And what I found out is the difference right now between Thinkorswim delta and option view delta is -7 per butterfly. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I don't know how long it's going to stay that way. I know it's been that way now because I went back and looked and redid everything. It's been that way for about 3 months, which accounts for our issue in July. It accounts for the issues we had in August, and it accounts for the issue we're having here in September. And I'm just going to go over an example of that by looking at the current position we have right now. So, and I'll go over the changes I made a little bit later. But, suffice it to say, right now, I am in 5 770 call butterflies. Right now I'm in 5 770 call butterfly, 5 770 put butterflies, 5 790 put butterflies, 2 750 Russell calls, and 5 790 800 vertical spreads. You can see here my delta is +2. T+0 line's perfectly fine to the upside. And you might be saying, geez, for an M3, you're taking on an awful lot of downside risk. And I would agree with you. Normally, I would not be in this position in M3. But let's take a look at option view for a minute, again, which is the way I modeled everything, and also the way I've traded it for years. And as we were saying, the market is reacting, or in general usually reacts like option view delta. So this here is the exact same position in option view. The exact same position. Look at my delta. -71. Again, Thinkorswim, plus 2.74. Looks like I'm going to fall off the edge of the cliff if the market goes down. Option view, -71. If I look at an analyze graph, this position looks perfectly fine. This looks like a regular old M3 position. We have plenty of protection to the downside. We have the upside sloping maybe a little bit more than we'd like. Our delta's -70. Our gamma trend's pretty good. So this is the classic M3 position. And I'm going to go back to the entry also, just to show you what would have happened had we actually hedged this off correctly to start. So, I just really want you to notice that difference. What I found in July and August, the people who were actually using option view delta hit their profit targets. It was a relatively easy trade. They did really well July and August, and they're doing pretty well in September. I find the people using, going off of these Greeks are getting hammered. I mean, not hammered. Like I said, you half profit target in July, break even in August, but in comparison to what you could be, and like I said, I'm down a little bit in September. I shouldn't be down money. I should be up money. So again, it was because I was paying attention to those Greeks. So like I said, you see this line. This is completely false. It's almost useless to me. I have to realize that I am 7 delta off. I suppose I could do something like kick in 7 delta. I'd have to go with one IWM call. I suppose if I could. No, that would be backwards. I'm trying to think of how I can fix this. If anybody thinks of something offhand. I can't think of anything on the fly. I'm sure there's something we can do to try to correct it. But even if you do, you might be able to correct your delta, but the whole curve may still be off. So I don't think I'd even rely on that. So anyway, just to make you aware of that. So right now, if I'm positive 2 delta, I have to figure I'm, with a 10 lot, I have to figure I'm minus 70 delta. If you look at option view, I am minus 71. I'm actually getting more than 7 per butterfly right now, slightly more. And I don't know how long it's going to stay this way. It's been this way for 3 months. I don't know if it's going to get worse. But when you enter your positions with Thinkorswim, just know you are much more negative delta than you think you are. If you're flat delta, you're near an adjustment point. You're near an adjustment point, and I think that's very important to know. Yeah, you can get away with that if the market's choppy, because realistically, you're better off to let this go a little extra negative delta if we're in a market that's pulling back and forth. But we're really not in that kind of a market. We're in a up grinding market, and in an up grinding market, you really got to watch your delta. And this certainly isn't helping us any. And if we go back to here, should we go back to the beginning of the trade? So we went in this trade on 8:15, which is here. And I did it with a 5 lot, right? Remember, I entered with a 5 lot and I double sized. So I'm in a 5 lot here. And my maximum delta that I would usually accept for the duration of the trade is minus 50. I am almost at minus 31, right? This is trade entry day. Oh, I'm past minus 31. I look at my analyzed graph. I would not enter an M3 with this kind of delta. I mean, unless for some reason I was inherently bearish, in which case if I'm out of a trend, I may purposely enter it with that kind of delta. But I was in a situation where I knew the market was flat, and when I put the trade on in Thinkorswim, I put this thing positive. I purposely put it positive 5 delta per butterfly, so it was probably positive 25. And so that if we got this up move, we would be hedged off. And I'm actually sitting here at minus 31. So I'm not getting the protection I think I am, even though I'm heavily hedged. So, if I was going to come in here, I would have done something different here. I would have, on my entry, since I'm usually two IWM calls per 1 butterfly, that's usually as many calls as I'll put on. If I need further correction, I will go with verticals. For the most part, it usually works out. So I would have to go in here and say plus 5, minus 5. Right, I put myself at positive 5 delta Thinkorswim, which means on option view I'd be about positive 2 delta. So let's see if I can go a little bit further. And like I said, I put myself a little. I meant it to be a little positive delta because I thought that the butterfly was going to deflate more than normal. So let's see, I don't think I would have done that. Let's just go minus 5 here, see what this looks like. Yeah, I would have been perfectly fine with this, right? This would have been if I convert this, this would have been a entry that I would have found acceptable had I been watching my analytics properly. I really like this entry. So, had that happened and we got I think it's like 2 days later, we got slammed to the upside. Yeah, so we're 9. Our gain loss is pretty much flat. Now a lot of times we will still get a collapse in the butterfly prices and do a little bit worse than expected on Thinkorswim than option view, but in this case we really didn't. And now, of course, I double sized the position, still thinking the market may still go up some more. So even here, I would have double sized this had I, again, if I look at my existing trade, my Thinkorswim delta showed me positive, except I was down, $500 or something. So had I known that, I would have done this, and then with this here, I would have at least thrown this in, cut myself down to minus 31. Let me just convert that. I'll fix this later. So I would have been in a position something like this. And then, moving on, I don't know if we ever get into any more trouble till today. Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So moving on to close of today, I would have been down. Oh, sorry, I would have been up $195 close of today. And instead, because of my delta situation, where I like I said, I just simply did not realize that was happening. Because of that, I am. Let me pull this out of here. Delete. Make sure I'm in the right position. Yeah, so the delta difference in this case, as of right now, costs me, let's see, minus 3 to plus almost 2, well, $500. Right, $500 difference. And realistically, this position here with the hedges on it never really drew down any money. It drew down maybe $300 or $400. The position here at one point, when the volatility was really crazy on Monday, or when the skews went nuts for a short period of time, when the market was going up, this thing was down $1,700, $1,800, which, again, it's no big deal. We have a $5,000 maximum loss, but it was certainly avoidable. Certainly avoidable. I mean, when you look at, you tack on the $500 difference, it gets me out of the trade sooner. And, $500 in my pocket's better than losing $500 because the market's goofed up. And you should be aware that this situation it's not just because I'm hedged here, and it's not because it's beta weighted with IWM. I've checked through all that stuff. And this one doesn't even have an IWM position anyway. It also happens on the bearish butterfly. So you need to be aware when you're calculating your delta theta ratios, your delta is simply off. Theta seems to be relatively close between the positions. Let's see, we're 94 here. And, well, even that's a little off. This is showing me more. It's showing 127. Another thing that's way off is your Vega, minus 304. And, 185. So Vega's way off as well. Suffice to say, I am using option view Griggs to manage this position pretty much from now on. So if I start making weird adjustments, and you're looking at Thinkorswim, and you don't understand why I'm doing something, it's probably because my option view delta hit some sort of a number. And that goes for this and the bearish butterfly, assuming I catch it. So I may stretch the option view numbers a little bit, but in general, I want to do the option view numbers. And I know a lot of people also are using One, the software that is with Dan Sheridan's network. I have had some students go and give me day-to-day numbers on a position with day-to-day numbers with Greeks. And Option View and Thinkorswim seem to be fairly consistently running. I mean, this is lately. Again, this could change at any time. But as of right now, just for your information, Option View is pretty consistently for the last 2 or 3 months running minus 7 delta per butterfly, more negative than Thinkorswim. The One software is all over the place. I don't know this for sure, but I hearsay that they're using Thinkorswim data. Apparently, they're not using Thinkorswim calculations because their delta seems to fluctuate up and down from Thinkorswim. So, if you're running that software, I wouldn't necessarily rely on the delta numbers. Because I just don't know. I mean, I can't tell you that. What I can say is I don't know, or it doesn't appear that those delta numbers are consistently off one way or another from thinkorswim. I mean, they're off one way or another, but there's nothing consistent that you can say, hey, this is in general, it's -7 difference. There just seem to be, sometimes they're more negative than thinkorswim, sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're less negative, is what I've been getting when I've been looking. And actually, if there's any people out there who are trading the M3 and they happen to have the one software, I wouldn't mind seeing the day-to-day difference in their position for Delta and possibly Vega for thinkorswim versus one. And if you actually have one and option view, we'll just put them all together and see it. And you can even track this trade if you'd like. I'll put up on the screen all the trades for this particular trade so that you can do that. All right, so that's my delta warning, and sorry for dragging on about it. We'll talk about the positions in a minute. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the positions here. This is an M3 dedicated account, so all the trades for that we're going to show here are specifically for the website M3 trade. That's the only thing that's traded in this account. And forget about these two singles. These were last month's trade. I just got out at 5 cents a piece. So here's our entry butterfly, and we got the timestamp and everything. So those are the trades, and if you want to do simulate that and check the delta differences, that's fine. So speaking of these trades, on Tuesday or over the weekend, this was the position we had on. We had this position on over the weekend. And again, if you go back, we're minus 49 delta. You look at thinkorswim, that'd be you'd be well over minus 100 delta here. So that's that's way off. But anyway, here is the position for that was here on Tuesday. On Tuesday morning when the market shot up, I took advantage of that and I rolled because I thought the pricing was decent. I rolled 5 of the 770 butterflies up to 790, and then I was very high delta to the upside, so I went ahead and I added these 4 verticals here for 810, and it put us into this position. Today, my thinkorswim delta was perfectly fine. However, my option view delta was pushing over 90 delta, which is kind of approaching 100. So I made a minor correction here, and I added another one of these 780, 790s. Puts my thinkorswim delta at plus 274, but it puts my option view delta at minus 73. So, and again, I'm paying a little bit more attention to this. And I also made a move on the bearish butterfly, so let's just delete this. I added the last third up at 840, and if you ask me, and this is completely by guidelines, other than the fact that if you checked at 330, we were back down under 820. I had an add point by guidelines to add an 840 when Russell was over 820. And Tuesday morning when we shot way up to like 829, 830, I knew I wasn't going to be around in the afternoon. So, and I figured the market would probably be above 820 on the close. So I went ahead and I just added this 840 butterfly in, which I really didn't want to do, by the way. I really felt the trade would be better off without it. But, I figured guidelines are guidelines. I'll go ahead and do it. Turns out if I was actually following the guidelines, I wouldn't have it on. But, well, that's not true. If I was following the guidelines and only checking at 3:30, I wouldn't have it on. If I was following the guidelines and only checking in the morning, which some of our overseas people do who trade in Singapore because they're sleeping all day, all day for us, they would have put this on. So anyway, had I not put that on, we'd look like this. I did put it on, so I look like this. again, keep in mind, I have 3 butterflies on. I'm actually, if I go with option view, I'm actually about minus 6 delta here. So again, and this position as well acts more like the option view pricing than the thinkorswim pricing, than the thinkorswim model. So that's the position update. That's the a thorough explanation of what's going on with delta between option view and thinkorswim, so that you are aware of it. And right now, if you're using thinkorswim, if the difference remains the same, you're going to have to be significantly positive delta in thinkorswim on entries and stuff if you want to follow the M3 concept and you're not bearish. Because, like I said, the spread on that is kind of crazy right now. If it may change, I would not go out there and just consistently go -7 delta difference, because as I said earlier, it was -3. If it goes back to -3, you're going to be taking on too much downside risk. I'd rather actually see you take on a little bit too much upside risk than downside risk on the M3, because all of your major risk of, say, blowing out an account or something like that is going to be back here. Even if you're a little bit more, even if you're significantly more negative delta than you think you are, you might lose money. You might break even. You might not make as much money if we get a consistent up move, but at least you're not taking any huge losses. And that's the whole concept there. Okay, that's what I have, and let me know if you have any questions. Good night, everybody, and have a great rest of the week.